Welcome to Coffee Meets Cloud, where three women in tech come together to share real stories about leadership, life, and everything in between. Join our hosts, Karami McCollum.
In other news, these headphones, I'm going to have to do something else. I am on fire.
Cassandra Parker.
It's pretty basic. We have to stay fully caffeinated in order to do all the things that we do.
And Rachel Rogers.
I don't know if we can survive this. I feel like this one goes in the vault.
Your go-to source for candid conversations and unfiltered insights. So, grab your coffee, pull up a chair, and join the chaos.
Hello, welcome back to Coffee Meets Cloud. Thanks for tuning in. Happy Tuesday. Today we have another guest. It's guest week. Today we're going to be diving into the art of reinvention with a guest who embodies it in every way. Kyle Gause has walked many paths. He's done and learned so many different things, held all kinds of roles, and through it all, never stopped chasing knowledge. What really stands out about Kyle, though, is his passion for people. He has a gift for helping others tap into their full potential, and he brings an energy that reminds us what it really means to truly love life. Some call him the professor. We're lucky enough to call him our friend. Kyle Gause, welcome to the show.
That's a four-way street, man. I'm so happy I met y'all, man. I am so happy that, during a COVID-hazed interview in 2003 where I think I passed out, that you ladies still chose to give me a shot and take a chance on me. And I really appreciate that. So yeah.
You definitely passed out after the interview. So after the interview, you ghosted the recruiter and everybody, like Betsy, for 3 days. We're like, we really want to hire this guy. And then we find out you were in the hospital with COVID. So
yeah, it was terrible.
Crazy.
It was terrible. But when y'all sent me those cookies, I was like, yeah, this is where I belong.
Yeah, Betsy and I got together and I was like, hey, what can we do? how can we make sure he's the person?
About to pass out. It wasn't about y'all. It was only about the sickness. That's it.
One thing the audience that hasn't met you needs to know, there's a few things you need to know about Kyle. Number one,
he's a lot of things you need to know.
Right. He's one of the most positive people you'll ever meet in your life. Genuinely positive. And when he was literally hacking and dying from COVID on this interview with us, we were all like, wow, this guy's energy is he's sick and his energy is on 10. I don't understand how he does this.
We didn't know he was sick. That's the other part.
Right.
We had no idea. And so we're just thinking the super cool human, right, is nailing this interview, is doing such a good job. And then to find out that you were sick, I was like, I can't imagine what he's like not sick. If he was that entertaining and energetic. And I think, Kyle, we had Scott on earlier, and Scott just has this curiosity mindset and he's super positive. And that reminds me a lot of you as well, of keeping that curiosity alive and making sure that you've got, always looking to learn. And so why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and a little bit about, your journey?
Okay. All right, man. So, I'm Kyle, as y'all know, and, graduated from UGA, go Dogs. We'll talk about that college stuff in a minute. But, so came out of there 03 with a undergrad in management information systems. But when I graduated, it was .bomb. So everybody's jobs getting rescinded, that kind of stuff. So in a punt of life, I went to law school. I went to law school in North Carolina, stayed there for a year. Honestly, the only thing I've ever quit in my life, because I just didn't like it. And it was the only thing where I was like, I don't know. So came home, started working for my dad. He was an insurance agent and everything was great, and that's how I really started get bit by the insurance bug first time. Right. And started working for him. Everything is cool. Then the Great Recession happens, 08, it was scary times. So within I want to say 6 to 8 months, had to shut down the agency because at the time, everybody was getting those no doc loans, that kind of stuff. So people's variable interest rates were going and they just, didn't pay their, home insurance, that kind of stuff. So, it was interesting. But where I landed at the Waffle House. I started there on my 29th birthday, May 6, 2009. And man, I was like, this is going to be interesting.
I got to stop you at the Waffle House because I've heard some about the Waffle House. I would really love for you to share a fun fact an interesting fact about Waffle House that people may not know? Because I learned several, but we don't have time for all of them.
Okay.
What is a good one that people don't know if they don't get into the Waffle House world?
Okay. If you are ever completely just down on your luck and need to turn your life around, regardless of what you may think, Waffle House is a good place to go. They have an office that will help you repair your credit. They all have where they will help you like write to every single credit bureau. Their training program is next to none. If you didn't know how to cook, you know how to cook now, because the Woo, as we used to call it, Waffle House University, but the Woo for short. They just train you from top down. I learned how to hang drywall and tar a roof at the Waffle House. So you can do it all.
That
They'll
is
get you ready for-
phenomenal.
Yeah, man, I tell people, if you're not afraid to work hard, get your hands dirty, you're gonna be fine. Like, that's what I'll tell anybody. And you learn that while you're there. And then on top of that, you learn, how to run a restaurant, understand, basic accounting principles, stuff like that. But another thing people don't understand is if you work at a Waffle House and become a manager and you stay through 20, 25 years, they will either grant you what's called, your Waffle House Golden Plan, where, hey, here's a good chunk of retirement money, usually right around $1 million, or you have the right to buy a Waffle House. So if you did that and you were like 25, man, you get out, you're 45, dude, you own a Waffle House. That's a business in your hand. It actually makes money, and you will learn how to make it be profitable. So yeah, that's the good points about the Waffle House. I know it gets a lot of bad stigma because you always got somebody ready to fight. There's a reason why, things like that at the Waffle House. But from the positive standpoints, if you didn't have work ethic and you stuck it out, you're gonna have work ethic by the time you leave. You're not gonna be afraid to get your hands dirty at all.
You're at Waffle House for how long, and then what came after?
All right, so I was at Waffle House like a year, and that was the craziest year of my life. So I thought it was going to be the craziest year of my life. The come up came when I started working for McOpCo. I started working for McOpCo, which was a division of McDonald's that still owned restaurants. So how you go to McDonald's, most of them are franchise. But when you go to some stores, they are still owned and operated by McDonald's itself. So I started off as like an assistant manager, because this was the time when they were looking for, McDonald's was looking for people who would come from like Waffle House, Huddle House, Denny's, because they were switching over to 24 hours, right? So all of us grizzled veterans from working the overnights and slugging it out at those restaurants I just mentioned, we were all there, and they were like, okay, we need help converting our overnight operation. So a lot of us were like, okay, we used to it, we'll tell them like, okay, we need to hire, a certain kind of cat, because it's a certain kind of person that's going to be okay with working from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. night after night, not just in just mentality, but also like awareness. Like, hey, you got people hanging out in the parking lot too long. We know how to take in a truck at 3 a.m., that kind of stuff. So I did that for 4 years. But the cool part is I spent some time working at a McDonald's in Rochester, New York, and they were allowed me to go get my MBA on the weekends. So that's how I graduated from Rochester. But that was all through, McDonald's. McDonald's is another place. If you can, don't let the videos you see on social media fool you. You'll definitely learn how to balance a balance sheet. You'll also learn the importance of like how to properly like rotate all your food to keep your costs low, that kind of stuff. And you also learn how to just deal with all kind of people, especially during that time in the recession where the employees were down on their luck, and, the people, who were coming in as customers, some of them were down their luck. So you got to learn and understand how, like, hey, giving somebody like a free sandwich or just giving somebody just like an open ear and some level of understanding could really help, like change their day. Cause you guys remember how, from 08 to like 13, it was brutal. It was like rock'em sock'em out there, man, for a lot of people. So, that's where I learned like, okay, I really must like people, because like you would have people come in and they're like, hey man, I got five people I need to feed and I only got like $10. Can you help me out? And you would have to sit there and really help them think about it. It's like, all right, you got 5 people. Okay. So that is, I can give you 3 McDoubles, 2 McChickens, cut those in half. Each one of those is $1.07 a piece. So that's $5.35. So you're down to $4.65 left. All right, I'm gonna give you 2 Small fries, but I'm gonna dump them out in a tray. Those are $1 a piece. That's another $2.14. So now you're up to what, $6.67, something like that. And then I'm gonna give you 4 drinks or 3 drinks, but I'm gonna put them in 4 small cups, and you're out of here right at around $10.07. I didn't see those 7 cents, so I'm just gonna keep that. You just give me the $10 and you have a nice day. But you would be like, they would be like, oh man, you really did make that work. So you learn to
helping
do that.
people.
Yeah, but that's what it's really all about. That's what any industry is about, especially once you go on the
People.
managerial side.
Yeah.
It's helping people. It's not just helping your team members, it's helping the customers, and then also trying to get them to kind of believe in themselves again. Because when you meet people in those situations, a lot of people kind of like lost their way, they've lost their confidence, they just don't really believe in themselves, and you'd be amazed like just what little nudge can help somebody do.
So wait,
though,
McDonald's to Salesforce, where's that leap at? I mean, how many stops between those two?
2 more stops. This is an interesting ride. 2 more stops. All right, man. So, I had a background in technology. So I knew my time at McDonald's was, I wanted to go. So I still remember my last day at McDonald's. It was Tuesday, December 17th, 2013. That was my last day. Left, tears of joy, crying on my steering wheel at 10 o'clock at night because I had worked from like a 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. that day. I started working at a Caterpillar factory as a procurement analyst, /supply chain analyst in Athens, Georgia, that next week, the week of Christmas, because it's factories, they don't close. Well, they only close like the day of Christmas and they're like New Year's Day. So the job was in Athens. I still lived in Atlanta. So what I did for 3 months, well, not 3 months, man, I'd say more like 2.5 months. I drove from Atlanta to Athens and back, except on Wednesdays, because the Holiday Inn in Athens had $49.99 special on Wednesdays. So that's when I would stay in Athens to save a little bit of gas.
And Kyle, for our listeners who aren't geographically referenced in Georgia, how long of a drive is that?
Oh man, 58 to 62 miles one way, and then so it's like 126 miles. So yeah, 126 miles round trip. So I would get out, I'd leave the house around 5 o'clock in the morning, go up 85, hit 316, and I would be up in Athens, right around like 6:15, 6:20. I worked my shift because then we were contractors. So, and it was a new factory, so everybody had to learn how to do 2 jobs. So I was a procurement analyst, sitting all my time in Excel and doing SAP and that kind of stuff, and doing like putting formulas together and that. And then I was also a backup assembly line worker, so that's what people would do. But again, I never was afraid to get my hands dirty. Never was afraid, to do that stuff. Like, sometimes like people be like, well, I got all these degrees, I shouldn't have to do this, I shouldn't have to do that. That's just not reality, man. And then I think at the same time, you need to get like humbled and molded a little bit, just because you just learned that the world isn't fair. And and even though you may have got tossed some lemons, you got to make lemonade anyway and make it shake. So it just is what it is. So did that for 3 years or 2.5, 3 years, got promoted, ended up becoming what's called a demand scheduling analyst. So this is when you're doing a lot with like SQL and SAP. So it's like a factory, right? So what you're doing is you're trying to determine, all right, how many raw tons of pre-stamped steel do I need to make this many excavators or this many mini hexes, that kind of stuff. And then how much of this stuff do I already have stateside, and then how much of this stuff has to come off the slow boat from China at the time. That's where we're getting a lot of our our steel with no slag in it. So that's what I would do. I was like, all right, we're making 15 of these a day. I've got safety stock of this much, and I've got this much in a domestic side warehouse. All right, cool. We can make up to 17 a day, but we can't go below 13. And then if we go over 17, we'll be biting into our safety stock and stuff like that. It was great. I got time to spend. I spent time in Peoria, Illinois, Mossville, Illinois, which was like right around the way from Peoria, and then in Athens. Then in 2016, my dad got sick. So that's when I came home. Now it was a double-edged sword. I was on a good track in Caterpillar, and my dad got sick, and I was sad about that. But through that is how I met my wife. Met the wife there. So because she ended up being my dad's anesthesiologist that morning for his surgery. So, you know, God works in ways, man. You see one thing and it's bad. You think, your doors are all closing, but as soon as those doors close, another one opens up and, your life just changes. So I came back down here, started working for a company called Thrive that did something similar in SAP. Honed the SQL skills, because SQL skills were always there. And then, but I had to leave because I was about to have a wife and I was about to have kids. So I needed benefits. So I went to a place called CoStar. CoStar is the parent company for apartments.com. So you see those lovely Jeff Goldblum commercials, that guy. And I started there and they had just bought Salesforce. I was an implementation consultant implementing their product called CoStar Real Estate Manager, but we had just bought Salesforce. And I know it sounds crazy, but I loved the way it looked and I loved how intuitive it was. And I was just like, man, I want to learn more about this. So I got promoted at the end of that first year to what's called a customer service manager. So I had a team of analysts under me. We would help, fix everything. So we got all our tickets through Salesforce. Because like I said, we got off of, I think the ticketing system was called Footprints. And then we went over into Salesforce. And I just dove into it. So what I would do is while the consultants were implementing during the day, I would hop on Trailhead and just learn as much as I could at night so I could keep up with what they were talking about, at least have some kind of like basic understanding of what they were talking about. And at the end, we were fully implemented and they were like, all right, we're off now. Our contract is ended, but you guys need something called omnichannel. And that was the first thing I ever implemented. And I literally just was reading documentation and sitting in a test org and breaking this thing like left and right. And like, man, but it was fun. It was so fun. And I mean, and what it did was, because I know you guys are especially Cassandra and Rachel, you guys are pre-Trailhead. You guys are just straight old school. This documentation, I got to make this work. But what Trailhead did for me was, it was like, okay, you can do this and you get like a basic understanding and a basic concept. And it really helped me with those like, early implementations. So now it's like 2019, 2020, I'm in the Salesforce world and, I'm just like a noob though, man. I ain't even passed my admin yet, but I'm still like an admin, which is, but because how it was at the beginning, you were chasing that 201
look,
and you thought you needed,
this is why, us OGs, like there were no certifications when we started. So like, think about it that way too. Like it was years before certifications came around. And back then, like trying to talk about your career and prove to somebody you knew how to do it, there was no way.
No.
So, you kind of started a little bit in an OG fashion there, right? Of like really starting by getting your hands dirty, starting from the ground up, right? And learning and then going and getting your certification. And I think that's important for people because I think a lot of people today jump straight into the test, right? Like you think about it as a school, right? And just like you did at Waffle House and just like you did at Caterpillar, right? Like some of those things you have to go physically do, and you have to start doing them before you go and try to pass the test and before you go and try to get that next step. So I think, in that way, your journey is probably a little bit relatable to people of like, hey, like, sometimes it's not about getting the cert first and then trying to get the job. Sometimes it's like, how do I learn on the job? And then I apply it to go get that certification and kind of go there. And I know like once you got involved in the community, and I'm sorry, I'm jumping in on your story, but I
this
feel
is a
like,
unified story. We're all part of each other's story.
Yeah, no, and that's how the universe works, right? And it's great in that way. But I think one thing too is your passion and your curiosity really goes beyond technology. And I think that is, a key spark of the community you helped create and how you became an advocate for certain people, right? And certain populations of people and really kind of helping from an inspiration standpoint. I think, a job's a job, right? Jobs come and go, right? And I think your career is a good example of that, right? Like jobs come and go, opportunities that you may not expect come up in sometimes the strangest way or when you least expect it, like how you met your wife, right? And I think, when you think about all of the people out there right now that, with the job market being what it is, right? It's not fantastic. It's not horrible, but it's not fantastic, right?
Right.
and how you spark the community. How do you kind of look at the community now that you're in, you kind of fast forward in your career a bit and you're in this different spot and you're in a position to potentially help people a little bit more than you previously had been? How do you kind of view that community aspect right now and like helping people that, we had Betsy on talking about from a recruiting standpoint, maybe what some people should think about. But how do you kind of help coach those people right now that are trying to get into the world that you are in?
Okay. I tell them that the world, has changed a little bit. Like, I think sometimes when you meet a lot of the new entrants, they're still perceiving it as, I'm going to pass this admin exam. The world is my oyster. I'm like, no. I was like, you need actual professional trigger time, and then you can pass the admin exam, and then you will just keep learning and learning and learning. Because an admin in 2020 or 2021 isn't what an admin is today. The orgs have changed. The business landscape have changed. Like, nobody's really doing like net new org creation like anymore. Like now it's more like enhancement. So I tell them, like, you don't just need to think about like making fields or something like that. You need to think about solving a business problem. Like, I want you to think about it from like the look at the problem and then take Salesforce and how can you create a solution utilizing Salesforce. But you also need to think about what other technologies exist in that technology stack. Whereas like a couple of years ago, it was just Salesforce and that's it. But now it's like how you get Salesforce to relate with everything else. So, I'd say, hey, it's great that you're going down that path. You can do it. It's a little bit more competitive, but you need to actually think about solving problems. Like that's really what it is now. It's like, it's not just like, make these flows. No, the flow is just a piece of the solution. Like, now you need to think about solving problems. But I'm honest with them. I was like, look, man, you may be looking for a year. You may be looking for a job for 6 months. Take the free opportunities, though, to hone your skills, not on just on Trailhead. If somebody pops up on LinkedIn and say, hey, I need help doing X, Y, Z, A, B, and C, take it.
Right.
Well, I'm not getting paid for that. You're getting paid in knowledge and in trigger time. You are getting paid for it. You can turn that into something later. I really try to get people out of that thought process of like, this is going to be easy and instant gratification, because that's when you realize if you really want to do it, because we've all been behind the computer, even though we're all on the managerial side now. We all still miss the technology piece of it, but we've all been, it's 1 a.m. This is my 9th version of making this dang flow or this formula or whatever it is. And I have to figure out how to get this done. And when it's 2 a.m., that's when you realize that you really want to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's just not always easy. It's the challenge.
Well, it's the challenge. And I think that point you bring up, right, about, we all need money. Let's face it, right? Like, you need to buy groceries, you need a place to live, right? And when you have those basic necessities, right, and you're able to be in an environment like that, taking that opportunity, as you said, to not everything's a paycheck, right? Some of the ways you get paid propel your career forward in different ways, right? And I think, as we talk about reinvention, I know, Caramy, you had a couple ones here to dive into. Caramy's been thinking a lot on this topic. I think, she's been diving deep into some areas of transformation lately. So, Caramy, what do you got for us?
I appreciate that beautiful segue, Rachel. You're an amazing co-host. So what's always fascinated me about your journey, because obviously we already knew some of this coming into the episode, but is the number of times you've done what I would consider reinventing yourself. And I know people who have stayed miserable in a career for 10 years, let alone, switching several times when they realized it was time for a change. So my question to you is, was there ever a time that you were going into one of those new roles or doing that reinventing of yourself where you felt intimidated at all? And if you did, how did you just propel yourself into that anyway?
Okay. I hate to say it, man. Going into Salesforce was intimidating. Because I was just like, you kind of took in some jobs where, you may have felt that they were a little below you or a little menial, so your confidence is shook, right? And I would look on like the websites and see all the people, the golden hoodies or the black hoodies or whatever at the time, not realizing how easy it was to get those hoodies. Didn't realize, but I was like, man, I want to be like them. I want to be like that. But then I said, you know what, man, I can do this, man. It's like, man, I'm not dumb. So, what you just have to do is just have to just really just believe in yourself. And honestly, I know it sounds stupid, but you gonna get knocked down. I'm sorry. That's just life. It's just what it is. But you gotta get up. It's just so, it sounds so hokey and so basic, but it's just so fundamental to just your tract in life. It's just like, it's not going to be fair. You just going to have to just get knocked down and get up. You get knocked down 8 times, get up 9 times. But every time you get knocked down, you learn something from it. And just realize that like every failure isn't like a failure, man. It's literally like, no, you learn something. You learn what not to do the next time. And you just keep, going forward. But, and honestly, the intimidation part makes you a little scared. And that fear makes you motivated. Like I know, my first 6 months working with y'all, man, I would stay up and read so much stuff because I just wanted to keep feeling like I was like, I got to prove myself, or, I don't want to let them down, because we had created just such this like team feel. And you would think it was like these 3 ladies and this one guy, and this is like this like cohesive, like it was just clicking. It was like, no, we just, we just feed off each other. And it was beautiful. So what it made was a sense of like, I don't want to let carry me down. I don't want to let Rachel down. I don't want to let Cassandra down. So we would just work and fight for each other. And that's what made it beautiful. And that energy just like keeps you going, man. It makes it, that's why I can say this now. And I tell anybody who, in the ecosystem this, I've been in this for 8 years now. It don't feel like a job. It still don't feel like a job. I still come in and I'm like, man, they paying me for this? Wow. Like, that's great. That's why like when we were at the company meeting yesterday, and, he was like giving out the gifts. And I said, I'm already rich, so I'll take whatever. He whispered, like, what do you mean? I was like, man, I got a good family. I got, I work with good, smart individuals every day, and I go somewhere where it never feels like it's an actual job. Yeah, by those definitions. Yeah, I'm rich, homie. So,
and I think that there is a lot that people can learn from that specifically, because it really is all about your outlook, right? Like if you get up every day and you despise what you do and you aren't loving your job, you need to change it, right? If you're not loving what you're doing every day, why are you wasting your life hating wherever you are and the people that you're working with when you could have the power to change it? It may be scary. You may require a little bit of reinvention, but I mean, it just goes to show you can really truly enjoy what you do and get paid for it, right? It's just all in how you look at it and what you put into it.
Yeah. And it's just constant pursuit. And it's just, and then, with the technology piece, the technology now moves so fast, you're just going to be in this like constant state of learning, but you have to be okay with that. And then like you're talking about being miserable. You spend 8 hours a day on average, right? At a job, 8 hours, count travel a whole lot more time. Dude, that is a third of a day, every day. That is a third of your life. Why would you spend a third of your life completely miserable if you don't have to?
Yeah.
Well, and we spend more time,
money,
right? But we spend more time with the people we work with than we do with our families. I say this all the time. I'm like, we spend more time at work or with those people. So you have to, if you don't enjoy what you do, make a change, do something different.
And looking at life that way, I don't remember if I heard this or read this, but the millennial generation and forward has really changed the way we think about jobs. I mean, because in those previous generations, it really was just a job is a job. I go there to get money. It's a necessity. I may hate it, but I'm in it for the pension kind of thing. But the culture around that has completely shifted. Now, when they do these surveys, millennials and after now say the most important thing to them is work-life balance and the culture at the place that they work versus the money. I mean, there are droves of people taking lower paying jobs to be where they feel like they fit and they're more at home. And that will make your career life, which is, to your point, a lot of it, and for a long time, it makes it a lot more tolerable.
Yeah. And I think too, it's also like we talked about before, it's about the stage of life you're in, right? So when you have young kids, putting time with them is super important. When they get to middle school, maybe you back off a little bit and you put more into your career, right? And then when you realize, like I'm right now, got 4 years left, right? And actually, getting close to only 3.5, which is even crazier to think about, right?
She
making
almost
sure
at the house.
I
Crazy.
know, right?
Sorry.
And so it's like those couple of years, right, where it's like I need to be really intentional about what I'm doing with her, right? And really intentional about every moment that I'm spending. And I think one thing to think about too, and I love the aspect of love what you do and go there for the thing, but also be realistic. It's not all roses, right?
Nope.
And I know that like we have all had struggles, right? We have all had moments where you're like, man, this is just so screwed up, right? Or, hey, like I dropped the ball, right? And, Kyle, to your point, it's about what you do next, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that the next has to be a shift in career. And I think that's important for people to realize too. You mess up, it is okay to mess up and still move forward. And it doesn't have to mean like completely blow up your life. And I think right now, some people's aspect is like, I screwed up. They don't see a way to recover. And so they do blow up their life, right? And they do go find another job and they realize, as we talked about, right, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it, right? And so keeping that perspective, I think, is really important for people. So, Kyle, we totally skipped over our get to know you questions. And I feel like through this montage, right, that you've done, like people have gotten to know you, but we would be like totally like probably canceled if we didn't ask in a caffeinated podcast, what is your caffeine of choice? Are you coffee? Are you tea? Are you cola? Do you not do caffeine at all? Like, let the people know.
Okay. All right. I've only had coffee twice in life, once in college and once in grad school. It never took. So Crystal Light.
Wait, that's not true. I brought you a free coffee. You've had it 3 times, right?
3 times. That's
See?
Right. You did. So the iced coffee was actually pretty good.
See?
Now, Crystal Light, 15 calories, those strawberry packets, a little bit of caffeine in there. That's what I drink. I love soda, but soda don't love me, especially at this age. So to keep the skin clear and to keep these kidneys functioning, not that much soda. Yeah,
there you go.
So yes, this Crystal Light.
So imagine if Kyle had any more caffeine. If
Right.
our audience
Kyle
would take a
goodness.
second. Right.
He already doesn't sleep. Goodness gracious.
I think he would be like super jittery. Like you just see Kyle like visibly shaking if he had more caffeine. Right, exactly.
Trying to escape his own body. Just like
I would definitely, for Halloween, maybe we should try it. Like, I don't know.
I don't know. Well, Kyle, I don't know if you heard the episode where Cassandra and I are trying to convince Rachel to try both of our energy drinks of choice, but do it in the same sitting. She's a person who doesn't even drink energy drinks. So if she were to hit, like double fist a Celsius and an Alani,
I'm pretty sure it just results in a heart attack. That's what I said. I'm pretty sure that's just heart attack territory.
You maybe just start the mid-conversation, just grab your chest and keel over, man. I'll say this, though. I like Celsius, but I'll say this. When I'm tired and I need to still go work out, I'll take an Alani cherry twist to the head, my friend, and just and knock that joker back. And they're really good. They're tasty, man. They're tasty.
You know what's funny? Cherry Twist is the one flavor I refuse to drink of Alani. I think it tastes like Robitussin. I don't like it.
Maybe because I chug it. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe because I chug it.
Well,
it's good. It's the only one I grab.
Well, and Kyle, speaking of sponsorships, I feel like, by the time this airs, our other episode would have aired, which talks about our love of Disney. And so I feel like we need to be sponsored by Disney, like get a free Disney trip. So have you taken the kids? I know you went on a cruise, right? Like how was your cruise experience with the kids for a Disney trip?
The Disney cruise is serious, man. So what I always tell people is like, you want to experience Disney, but you don't want to, walk every single where. Throw them on a boat and let the boat do the moving for you. It's really good from a kid's perspective. All right. I mean, it's good from adult perspective too. There's not like a super buffet kind of situation. I mean, some of the food is out, but nobody's really like breathing on it, that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool. The rooms are great. The negative is they're just wired for Disney and Disney alone. So if you turn on your television, it's a wonderful world. There is no ESPN. There is no CNN. No, yeah, dude. Even though Disney owns all these other channels, you can't like pop Hulu on there. No,
I bet you can now because now your Disney subscription can come with Hulu. It's like a package thing. Did Disney buy Hulu?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Damn.
ESPN and all that, ABC.
Well, I'm up for Disney buying us. I'm just going to throw that out
Correct.
there, put it in the
You
universe.
can absolutely
Yeah.
buy us Disney.
I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, dude, y'all
Yeah.
need it.
And I'm cheap.
Wait,
All
Your
you got to do is
kids,
give me
Disney
season
cruise.
passes.
don't they have like the Disney fairy daycare thing where like you can take your kids and like drop them off and then the
it's
parents
beautiful.
can go see? That's what
It's
I'm
beautiful.
talking about.
They give your kid a low jack that looks just like a watch, looks just like an iWatch, right? You drop your kids off and you can actually tell on the app like where they are on the boat and all that good stuff. But you can leave your kids there all day and they're with other kids and they're going on little Disney adventures.
They're having fun.
Lots of fun. I stayed with my kids for
they
like 2
probably
hours
don't
on
want
one.
to come back.
No.
They're probably like,
My kids
Dad,
didn't.
just bye.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
didn't. And then there's like a little private island you go to that Disney owns, and they have like all these like water slides and private beach and all that stuff. It's a good
Disney
time.
owns an island. Of course.
I mean,
Of course they do. They better. I mean,
I
they're
want to own
Disney.
an island.
Me too. But
See,
it's
I
a
don't
good
know
look.
that
It's a fun thing.
I challenge owning an island, right? Because if I'm on an island, I just want somebody bringing me drinks. I don't
Well,
want
if
to
I
have
owned
to
it-
worry about it.
If
No,
I
I
owned
don't
it, I
wanna
would
have to-
hire people for that, Rachel.
See, but then you got to manage people.
Nope,
And that's
nope,
why I'm
nope.
like,
I hire people for that too. If I've got enough money to own an
They gotta-
island, I hire people for all
Listen,
that.
somebody's always got a boss, Cassandra.
Exactly.
I
I mean, I can't. No, if I'm
I'll hire
going
one
to
of
go to
y'all.
relax,
We'll hire Kyle to be our manager of the island, see, and he can come and manage all the people.
Kyle,
and
you
everyone will
really-
be happy.
You could be a cruise director, my man, for real.
Yeah.
Like when the
cruise
kids are
director.
older and they're doing their own thing and they don't need a home base,
Mhm.
that would be amazing for you.
That might be Kyle's next reinvention
You've
of
got
his
the
career.
Yeah.
My wife did want me to go into hospitality before I got hardcore.
Yeah.
She literally was trying to, because like Georgia State had like some like master's program in like hospitality, but she was like, "No, you can run hotels. You'd be amazing.
You
'Cause,
would.
like you like
You
people and
would.
like you can do this, and people can yell and you won't get upset." And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's actually a great segue into, I know we don't have a tremendous amount of time with you, so I just have a couple
What's up?
closing questions. I mean, what's next for you? Or is there another reinvention on the
I
horizon
don't
for
know.
Kyle?
I mean, I think there may be like a sub reinvention, maybe. I know there are two things I like, and there's something me and Rachel talked about. I love, education, right? Love education, love education. Maybe like when I'm like 50, I'll go back and get my like PhD at like Kennesaw State, because Kennesaw State's like one of the few, schools that actually has a part-time PhD in management information systems. So, because, I teach at UGA a little bit as an alumni professor. So, I was thinking about going back and getting my PhD. And then like, once I finish that, that'll be like something I can do until, you get too old to want to do anything else. But currently, I kind of realized like on our side, there are a lot of people who know the technology, but they don't like really understand the business of like what we do. So as far as like the business of, what Mag Mutual does as a company, right? So I've kind of been delving more just into the hardcore insurance stuff at night. So going back and getting my producer's licenses in Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Alabama. I take the exam in November, and then once I pass, I can just write into those states. So, but it's just to have them. It's not to like sell insurance or anything. It's just to have it and get like a better understanding of everything.
People need to know this about Kyle too. Kyle is always going to get the certification, the license. Like even if he doesn't use it, he wants to have like that.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that about you. That is a very
It's good
admirable
to
trait.
know. It's good to know, but I'll say this though. And this kind of goes back into the Salesforce world. The cert don't make you know the stuff.
Amen.
You need to know the stuff before you take the test.
Say less.
The test is just more of a proof. The test does not make you an expert. Now I know like we all got associates and friends and colleagues who work on the consulting side. Yeah, you need the certs so you can get on the project. But just because I passed the Data Cloud consultant exam doesn't mean I know Data Cloud.
Yep.
I'm working with one that knows more about Data Cloud than most folks, because you had to do what? You had to go hook up Agentforce. So you had to go figure out how Data Cloud works.
I met a lot of certified idiots in my life.
100%.
Yeah,
Like,
me too. I
100%.
can name like 3, and it's just
Yeah.
we're not gonna do that.
Just 3?
I mean, dude,
My list
you
is
would
long,
definitely win.
Kyle. My list, you got to
Definitely win.
scroll.
Yeah, you
Practical
definitely win.
application. Yeah. Practical application is a much different animal than
Yeah.
regurgitating facts.
I feel like I need to
Yeah.
put that on like my LinkedIn profile, or like when I interview people, just let them know up front. Like, I value practical application over certification any day of the week, because I can tell if you know what you're talking about and you're going to be able to actually do a job versus, oh, I have 435 certifications. You can take
Yeah.
That
tests.
means you know how to pass the
Congratulations.
test. That
Correct.
means you know how to take
Exactly.
tests, look
Correct.
at patterns, and
Exactly.
figure stuff out. Because like I know there are at least one or two certs I passed before I had gotten any real trigger time in those clouds. And it was just like, oh, it's pattern recognition. Okay, I
Yeah.
see. All right, this is the answer. But like, if you put me in front of it at that time, I couldn't have gave you nothing. But when it was time for me to take that admin exam and that platform app builder, I do that stuff cold because I've been doing it for 2-3 years. So it was just like, all right, I'm ready.
There you go. And speaking of ready, well, unfortunately, Kyle, our time is coming to an
We're
end.
out
So
of
with
time.
that,
Oh man, that was the best
Jeremy.
hour. Best way to spend an hour on a Friday morning, right there.
There
I'm
you
smiling
go.
for the rest of the day.
There you go.
It's
Jeremy,
good.
take us home.
Thank you so much for joining us for today's conversation with Kyle Gause. We hope his story of reinvention and his passion for people left you feeling as inspired as we are. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow Coffee Meets Cloud wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an update. You can also connect with us on social media or through our website at coffeemeetscloud.com for more behind the scenes content. And if you're loving the show, a quick follow or rating or share goes a long way in helping others discover us. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and keep finding the joy in the journey. And we'll see you on the next episode.
See you guys later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.